Well, guys, welcome to the Novice Finals of Asian Schools Debating Championship 2019. On the proposition, we have Catholic High 1, and on the opposition, we Catholic High 1. And on the opposition, we have DJ 3. On the motion, this House regrets reconciliation of Fatah and Hamas. Before I call the speaker, I would request the audience to please remain silent while the speakers are speaking. You need to leave the room, leave in between speeches, and try not to howl and scream or turn your cell phones off so that there is no noise while the speeches are going on. Now, without further ado, let's call upon the Prime Minister to present her case here.
Madam Chair, right now we agree what is happening right now is that Hamas and Fatah are trying to make a reconciliation talk. They had the beach camp accord and they decided to form a reconciliation over one reason only, and because that Fatah felt that it is losing power over West Bank, and Hamas is losing power over the Gaza Strip. And this is the only reason they want a reconciliation, because these both parties felt that they are not having enough power and they want more power, and by reconciliation, they will have a better control over who has what and who has what. And this, we tell you, is a not good enough reason for you to have reconciliation. So let's look at what Fatah is. Fatah is a circular nation that is willing to have democratic talks, that is willing to have peace, that is willing to have peace negotiation, and is willing to actually sit down and talk about it. How about Hamas? Hamas is more pushing on it. Hamas just wants something, and without giving it, Hamas will never stop to want something. Hamas never wanted negotiations. Hamas never wanted peace talk. And what happens when these two come together? When Hamas and Fatah actually form a government, we have two different ideas in a party. When two different parties are so dead on something they wanted, when Hamas is so dead on something Hamas wants, and is not willing to negotiate, and Fatah being the only party wanting to negotiate, I think we think as side government is very harmful, because when only one party wants to talk, no talk will ever happen. So today, let's look at who are our stakeholders. Our stakeholders in this debate is that Fatah, Hamas, and of course the people in Palestine and Israel. Like, what is our stance that side government wants to take in today's debate? Side government said right now it brings more harm to have reconciliation at this very moment, when Israel does not want to actually acknowledge Hamas, and Hamas don't want to acknowledge Israel. So today I bring you two ideas. First idea is the effect what the effect of Palestine when reconciliation actually happens, and the second effect of Jerusalem itself. So firstly, the idea of effect of Palestine. Right now, Israel is trying to make peace talks with Palestine. They are trying to set up borders where people could actually live peacefully. They are trying to they have a prisoner swap agreement going on. Israel is doing a lot of things. Israel has done its job, is pushing for peace talks. Israel is trying to give its best. Israel has already taken its foot out, and we see that Israel right now wants to do it. But what happens? This is the glitch here, right? Israel does not recognize Hamas at all. So what happens when Hamas and Fatah actually reconcile? It means that Israel would not want to talk to Palestine at all because Hamas is part of government. What happens when Israel don't want to talk to Palestine? Right now, we don't see those peace deals coming up. We don't see those. We don't see peace deals coming up. We don't see agreements being made. We don't even see the possibility of peace talks, because right now Israel will never even consider about talking to Hamas and Fatah, and Hamas will never want to talk to Israel. What happens that Israel would, if Israel wants something, it would result in violence. And we all know when it results in violence, things will end badly. Israel won't even think about sitting down and asking questions nicely, but Israel will now point a gun and say, give me this, give me that, because it does not recognize Hamas in the first place. Yes?
Don't you concede that when there's reconciliation happening, wouldn't that mean that people will actually come and talk about it and have a proper discourse?
What the problem right now is that Israel don't even want to talk about it when Hamas is there. It's the whole thought of Hamas that sets Israel up. How are you planning to have a discourse when Israel don't even want to look at Hamas in the face? We tell that that's not going to happen, and there's more violence going to happen, and more people are going to die because of it. And what happens when we don't have a peace border? You see, Hamas is going to send bombs over to Israel, and Israel is going to send bombs to Hamas. Right now, more human rights violation is going to occur, and we think that is very bad, because when human rights violations is going to occur, we understand that the UN and the US will come and try to help out. But the UN and the US can only do so much. They can only ask the both of them to sit down, chill out, let's have a conversation. But the problem is Israel don't even want to have a conversation. How are they going to have a negotiation when any negotiation is not going to form when any negotiation that UN and US tries to form is not going to happen anymore, because there is no incentive for Israel and Palestine to have that very negotiation. So let's look at the effect of Jerusalem. But please sit down. Let's look at the effect of Jerusalem. We understand that the Jerusalem dispute has been happening for years and years and years, and it's a very rare thing that Israel actually says that he wants to sit down and talk to what's going to happen over Jerusalem. So let's look at what happens over Jerusalem. Jerusalem is a very holy place where the Jews call it home, where the Christians call it home, where the Muslims call it home. And what happens now is that Israel is actually chasing the Palestinians out of Jerusalem. Israel is chasing the Palestinians out of Jerusalem because Israel thinks it owns Jerusalem. And we think that that's very harmful when Fatah and Hamas get together, because right now Israel won't even have a second thought about whether it wants to take Jerusalem Palestine out of Jerusalem or not. But the problem is Jerusalem is a home for Islam. The problem is Jerusalem is a home for Christians. Everybody has a own over that place. But what Israel is doing, that Israel is ignoring that fact. Israel doesn't even want to look at that fact right now. So what happens when both parties concerns, especially something over as important as religion? People won't even take a chance. People won't even have a second glance. They think that you are over my home boundary. We are not going to talk about it. Nobody's going to talk about it. We tell that guns will fire, blood will pour, and that is something very harmful, especially over something especially over religion. And what happens what happens when people are chased out of their religion home? People don't get the kind of connection they need with that place. And we thought that place is very religious to this person for some personal. We thought that this place is very important, it's very religious for people in this matter, because right now, because when you deny someone of their religious needs, you are violating human rights. And here, side government wants to keep the human rights, side government wants to make sure that bloodshed don't happen, and if you want peace negotiation to happen, go with side government. Thank you.
I thank the Prime Minister for her speech and call upon the Leader of the Opposition to present his. We're here.
Side government got their case wrong today. When they talked about reconciliation actually, they didn't really explain what reconciliation really is. Let me tell you what reconciliation is. It is a ceasefire, and when you want to hold talks for proper discourse to end the war. Something which they fought for, all their benefits which they fought for, falls also under our side. Because now with all these peace talks happening, then now no violence is going to happen, or less violence and conflicts are going to happen, and their whatever effect on Jerusalem, they're going to settle it through a proper discourse. So everything they argue for is value neutral. But let me just reinforce on our case, reinforce on our case, and reinforce on their points which they try to talk about under our paradigm. Okay, so, but before I move on, the kind of lots and lots of rebuttals. So first, when you talk about how the characterization, how Israel equals violence, we tell you Israel always looks for violence and always seeks to end things with violence. We tell you no. We tell you it already is status quo, there's already present evidence where they hold peace talks with Hamas and all these things which already happened. And we told you that even if this isn't to happen, other international pressures like the United States and other Western countries are already pushing for all this. And so even if this discourse and violence is going to happen, we tell you no, it's not going to happen because even more discourse is going to go on it. But okay, on the idea on effect of Jerusalem, how did some religious ideology, we tell you that no, because this reconciliation and ceasefire which happens, it's going to lead to more talks. So let's look at discourse. How can discourse even happen? How can people actually come and sit down at the table? This is when a ceasefire actually happens. Only after a ceasefire can you start having discourse and start talking. So through this reconciliation, when the Fatah and the Hamas come together, only then it's when the discourse happens. So the effect on Jerusalem, where Jerusalem is going to, both parties want it, we tell you, fine, both parties do want it. But through proper discourse, only then can they finally settle for something. It's an internal organic change, something which they'll never talk. So let's look at my arguments for you today. Number one, how discourse actually happens on the outside, and number two, on how this aggravates the violence under their side if they don't have all this reconciliation and all this. So let's learn the first idea on discourse. But before I move on, any viewers? No? No? Okay, fine. On the idea of discourse. Why is discourse so important? But before that, let's characterize discourse. Discourse can only happen when there are two parties and there is something controversial happening. So we can see there are two parties here, Fatah and Hamas. And the controversial thing is on the West Bank, and all the controversy we see on it, where people are fighting and people are dying. The civilians on the streets are the ones being affected because of that conflict. How can this conflict end? Only if people can actually put down their guns and look at each other and open up their minds. So how does this happen on the outside? Outside, we have constructive discourse. When two parties are willing, because both parties realize about all the harms which are happening to both sides. It is a losing battle on both sides. So both sides would obviously want the discourse. Both sides obviously want to end the war. So how can discourse actually help end the war? How can discourse actually stop this war from happening? Because we see on the first level, this discourse, when it's open and constructive, people open their minds. People, when they look down and both have a common interest in ending the war, then they'll actually find ways to end the war through these talks. But on their side, when there's no discourse happening, what's going to happen is they're going to think that their ideology is correct. They're going to think that whatever they're fighting for is correct, and there's no other way to do it. Their side, there's nothing to do. There's no way that they can, the opposing side has no way or is never correct. So this is disruptive discourse coming out from their side because they'll keep thinking they're right. So any idea and any opinions coming from which are engaging with their ideologies, they'll just deny it. They'll just say no, 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 I'm correct. This is bad. But when reconciliation happens, when Fatah and Hamas both come together and talk it out, then they're open because both want to end the war. Under their side, the conflict still happens and people on the streets are dying. But before I move on to my next point, yes. Yes.
The war does not happen between Fatah and Hamas. The war happens between Israel, Fatah, and Hamas. How are you going to have a discourse when Israel don't even want to recognize Hamas in the first place?
Yeah. We tell you, Israel, even if Israel doesn't recognize Hamas, Israel or Fatah doesn't recognize Hamas, we tell you that they still want to end the war. So what they're going to do is they are going to, even if they don't recognize it, they still must have discourse if they end the war. And we see this already happened. That's why you're arguing to regret it. We think that your arguments fall. But let's look at the second idea on how this aggravates the violence under their side. Because when both sides are having conflict and both sides are fighting and thinking that their ideology is correct, we think this is wrong. Why? Because now, when both sides don't think and don't recognize each other's state, then we think that the war and the fighting will just keep going on. They don't care about the civilians on the ground then. These people, all they want to do is win, or all they want to do is take control of Israel, or take control of the West Bank. And we don't want that happening, because now, even if, let's say, one person wins the war, let's say Hamas takes it or Fatah takes it, then the other group and their ideologies are going to be oppressed. And we don't want that happening. We don't want the opposing ideologies to be oppressed. Why? Because the same thing when I talked to you about from my first argument on the proper ideas on discourse. Because when both people can come together and when they can have this discourse and they can shut down each other's ideas, if let's say Fatah's ideologies are wrong, or let's say Hamas' ideologies are wrong, then when these two people come together and when they talk it out, and they realize that one side might even open up and say that, hey, what I've been doing all this time is wrong, and all this discourse which comes from it will end the violence instead of aggravating the conflict under their side. So let's look and compare the paradigms, because their side, all they're going to do is keep fighting. There will no longer be a ceasefire. There will be that side will just keep fighting until one person wins, and we don't want one person to win. We want both sides to be happy, and both sides to be happy. Because ladies and gentlemen, when one side wins, the other side gets opposed. Under our side, when both sides get a fair agreement and both sides are happy with the decision through the discourse, through the reconciliation, that's when proper country and Israel can progress into the future. So the most important thing which I have to take away from this debate are how this positive discourse, which I've told you about, can only exist if this reconciliation actually happens, and also how this ends or mitigates any extra violence coming out from our side, because these people actually want to end the war. For all those reasons, we are really, really proud to oppose. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader of the Opposition, for your speech. We call upon the Deputy Prime Minister to present his behavior.
They blame us for getting the case wrong, but we tell you it's they who got the case wrong. Why? Ian came up and told us how through this so-called reconciliation you can get discourse and end the war. But the fact is, between who is this war happening? Is it between Hamas and Fatah? We tell you no. The fight, the pushing out of citizens is between either Israel and West Bank or Israel and Hamas. So next, let's look at some ideas coming from them. They told us that that international pressure will still push Palestine, the coalition government, to discuss with Israel. But we tell you, there's only so much that UN and the US can do. They can only act as brokers for the deal. To have a negotiation, you have to have both sides agreeing to negotiate with each other. The fact is, when Hamas decided to form a coalition government with Fatah, Israel, before that deal was struck, already clearly stated, if this happens, we will never discuss or negotiate with Palestine. And we tell you that with this, at the end of the day, that so-called discourse, which they try to bring about, cannot happen because both sides don't recognize each other. So he gave us an even if, that if they don't recognize, they will still want to end this war. But look, this fighting has happened over many years, many decades. We tell you that what happens, the reason why they are fighting each other is because they don't recognize each other. So when they don't recognize each other, they can never ever want to negotiate and end the war. Other than that, they talked about this strange idea on the oppression of ideologies. We didn't quite get that oppression of ideologies thing because look, at the end of the day, we told you, why exactly did Hamas and Fatah decide to form a coalition government? Was it because they want to put down their ideologies? No. Was it because they wanted to settle their differences between each other? No. The only reason they wanted to form this coalition government is because both sides felt they were losing power, that the citizens were slowly losing trust over them, therefore only wanted to form a coalition government so that each side can consolidate their power for Hamas in Gaza and Fatah in West Bank. This does not cause that so-called discussion of ideologies which they try to talk about. But let's look at our two ideas today. Firstly, how this reconciliation between Fatah and Hamas will harm the people on the ground. Let's take a step back and understand what is happening. Because we've already told you how at the current under status quo, Israel is busy clearing the land, disregarding all these so-called borders between Israel and Palestine, mainly West Bank, clearing out the land, pushing the Palestinian people away, sending them off and building Israeli settlements, not only in Jerusalem, but in every part of both Gaza Strip and West Bank. What happens? Because Fatah decided they wanted this to stop, so they negotiated with Israel. The negotiations happened so that this land clearing could stop. But what happens when Hamas comes in? We've already told you, when Hamas comes in, they don't ever want to negotiate. What will this mean? At the end of the day, these land clearances in Jerusalem or other parts of Palestine will still occur, thus harming the people, displacing the citizens of Palestine who actually live on those lands, because now when negotiations can never happen, this clearing of land will still occur. But let's look at the second idea on how you form a shaky government between both Fatah and Hamas. But before that, any thoughts? So let's take a look at Fatah and Hamas. Fatah, what are they? What are they? They are a secular nationalist party, and they are more willing to negotiate with Israel and are willing to recognize Israel as a state. But what about Hamas, which resides in the Gaza Strip? They are more Islamist, hardline Islamist party with a military wing which sometimes carries out attacks on Israel itself. They also never ever want to recognize Israel. They are counted as anti-Israel. What happens then? So when you form a coalition government between these two sides, and as we told you, the reason they are forming a coalition government is not because they want to settle their disputes and settle some ideological differences. It's only because they each want to consolidate their power in their two different regions where they initially had that power. What happens then? You have a government formed by a group of people with different ideologies who can never decide upon a particular policy because of their ideological differences. Before that, yes. I told you, one, it stops the negotiation to end the dispute in Jerusalem. It stops all negotiations and harms the people on the ground because land clearances will still occur. But other than that, continuing on my point on how you form a shaky government. Now that you have a shaky government, which when all people in that coalition government cannot ever decide on whether to carry out this policy A or policy B, because both sides believe in different ideologies. Both sides believe in a different style, different way of running the country. What then happens? You now see a very shaky government with so many internal conflicts. What happens when when a coalition government has internal conflict? One, as I told you, shaky. Two, it can never carry out any policies to help its people on the ground. Its people which it had a duty to protect, to serve. Because as I told you, they can never decide on what to do to their people. What happens? The people lose trust in this government itself. At the end of the day, they still become dysfunctional. This is harmful towards the whole Palestinian country as a whole, be it either in West Bank or Hamas or the Gaza Strip. Because now, initially when you've got two different governments running it, one Fatah for West Bank and Hamas for Gaza Strip, they still could run properly. But now when you've got a coalition government trying to govern two different places with ideological differences, with so many internal disputes, they can never run Palestine, and Israel can then take this chance and clear more land and start attacking them more, because now they see that their coalition government can never decide on what to do, on how to protect its citizens. For all these reasons, for all these harms we've shown you, go beside government.
We need to clarify like 500 things in today's video, right? Let's be honest. Yes, the war is between Israel and Palestine and some other bodies. But in the end, when Israel doesn't recognize Palestine as a sovereign body, how are you going to negotiate with them, right? We will never come to any ceasefire when you don't recognize Hamas there. So we believe that the reconciliation is the best treatment. I'm going to bring to you two substantives on how we provide constructive discourse and how we give a marginal benefit to stop the war. But before that, a few points of rebuttals. Because first of all, they tried to push you this idea on how Israel isn't looking to have peace talks, right? Look, if you did, wait, first of all, that's not even true, right? Israel did have peace talks with they have peace talks with John Kerry there, right? And it did end in a ceasefire. We see that even if you guys are saying what you guys are saying is true, in the end, Israel does have to conform and does have to negotiate with them. Because in the end, whether it's the social pressure saying that, hey, we cannot lose any more casualties, or it's they themselves realizing that we can't lose any more people, it's not. Oh wait, it's 1 minute. Okay, then you realize in the end, you get tired of war, which is called war fatigue. So in the end, you do have negotiations with them. You don't see how this is a problem to it, right? But in the end, Israel doesn't like Hamas because of the only reason they don't like Hamas. Let's be honest, right? But in the end, they recognize the PLO as good people, like they want to negotiate with PLO. And who does the PLO recognize? Hamas. So we see that in the end, when they do, when they recognize PLO as body, right? That's when they do recognize Hamas as a sovereign guy, and that's when they do have negotiations, and that's when we do have peace talks. But let's look at what happens when you don't recognize Hamas as you don't recognize Hamas in a peace talk, right? That's when you piss Hamas off, you piss all these people off. That's when they try to stop the negotiation from happening. That's when they attack them because they aren't being recognized and they aren't being represented in that particular negotiation. So what you guys are doing is forcing even more conflict from happening, where Hamas will start fighting with other people, and therefore we see that there will be more of an escalation of conflict, which is what my Prime Minister said that they didn't care to engage on how you aggravate the situation even more, and then in the end people will get even more pissed, people start fighting, all because you don't recognize these people. We see that it's not a problem because they already did have negotiations, they already did have peace talks, it ended in a ceasefire, which is a good thing that we had a reconciliation, right? But and on the idea, right, that if you don't, like, in the end, if you didn't recognize, if you didn't give the reconciliation to them, right, that's when you aggravate it. Because obviously the main reason they had these talks is because they're at each other's throats and they keep on fighting. So what they realize is, in the end, to stop this war, to stop people from dying, we still have to recognize him, even though we hate him, because we have to stop this war. And in the end, we still need to save our people. And yeah, so that's when you don't include him. That harms the negotiations in the first place. When you start protesting against them, and when you start getting people to go against this negotiation and go against this coalition. On the idea about how you form a shitty government, and the only way to do it, and they have different ideologies and stuff like that, right? At least it's a catalyst to a stable one, right? We don't think all because you form a nation is immediately the most stable nation on earth. Obviously, when different ideologies in the same country where you aren't at each other's throats, that's where we allow positive discourse, where we can talk about our different ideologies and form it into one country. Unless your paradigm, when you don't recognize these people and you don't form this coalition whatsoever, that's when they feel, that's when you won't have positive discourse, but more deconstructive discourse, where they only want to uphold their ideologies, and that's where in the end you won't form, that's where you keep on going at each other's throats, where you keep on saying, no, my ideology is right, your ideology is wrong. But when we form this particular nation together as one, that's when they have positive discourse, that's when they realize, okay, we need to integrate with you guys, we can't have war in our own coalition, so therefore we need to understand what we each other want and what we need to discuss, right? If they don't, because we don't see, obviously, different ideologies happen everywhere, right? But we see that when it's best under a coalition, where you have positive discourse, where you can understand what you guys want. If you don't let them people in, then you just aggravate the situation more. We don't want that happening. Before I move on, yes.
At the get-go of my speech, I told you that Hamas is a dead-on Islamist that don't want to talk at all. What he wants, he gets. So how is the people going to get a perfect country in your sense? Because right now, there's two parties in one government with two sticky ideologies, and people are not going to get happy because the only reason why there is reconciliation is how for you.
Okay. Thank you for the speech. Now, let's think rationally, of course. Because if you don't recognize him, if he thinks he's so right, he'll keep on fighting. But when you recognize him, that's when you can have positive discourse with him, where you can tell him that you're wrong in a negotiation table, not in a battlefield. We prefer it when we reconcile him, when you can actually talk to him and you can actually reconcile him. We agree that Israel doesn't like Hamas, but when we let discourse happen in a proper place where you're not fighting with each other, that's when we believe that they can integrate with Hamas, and that's why we believe that that's the best way this can happen. On my idea on constructive discourse, right? Oh, okay, I already said that. Yeah, we cannot conduct this discourse when we include everyone. So if Haman is really a bad person and has really bad ideologies, that's when they go to the table, and that's when people realize that yes, his ideologies are really bad. That's when people opt out of it when they're at the negotiation table. But when you're fighting, when all your people die, they're not even recognized in the coalition party, that's when people get aggravated and that's when people get angry, where they think that my ideology isn't good enough. But when you include him in it, that's when if he's really that bad, that's when the whole society will realize. So when he loses his backing, when Haman loses his backing, that's when they realize that that's when Haman can't really be part of the war and can't really cause a war and can't really aggravate the situation and can't force the negotiations to be bad, right? When you aggravate violence under the other side, because without there will be no ceasefire whatsoever. When you fight with all these people, there will be no ceasefire. The people on the ground will die, and in the end, no reconciliation, no anything will happen. On my idea about how reconciliation helps people opt out, because when you have reconciliation, that's when you have mixed ideologies and where you transfer what you think is bad about yourself and what you think is good about yourself. So that's when people are deemed legitimate. That's when the people who are supporting these people can opt out. Because the main reason they are in that particular place is because they were born into the demographic and they're so culturally entrenched that I have to stay in this group. But when you have a negotiation, that's when you have a negotiation, that's the only way when people realize that, oh wow, this person, we are accepting we're on common ground. If I really don't like my ideology, I can go over. But when you're at a war, when you have no peace talks whatsoever, and when you don't include someone in the war, that's when people will get more aggravated. That's when you glorify what your dictator's ideology is, and that's why you fight even more for the ideology. We think that when we have peace talks and we recognize everyone, that's when people are more rational, that's when people can have more peace talks, that's when people can opt out if they want to without being antagonized. Because you realize that what I'm doing is wrong. What I'm doing, I don't like this ideology, I want to opt out of it. But in war, you can't opt out of it, right? Because in the end, you don't even think about it because people will already antagonize you. But when you go to a peace talk, that's when they concede to the fact that we need to stop this fight. And that's when we allow these people to opt out. We give them the avenue to opt out. Yeah, we are proud to oppose.
I thank you, Deputy Professor, for your speech. Welcome the government with, representing first, and then the government.
Hello. Is it okay if I don't use the mic? No? Okay, I'm gonna use the mic as well. Opposition's case was very unclear from the beginning, right? First, they came out and told us that, oh, okay, we need to have discourse to happen. Then they didn't tell us why. It wasn't up till the second speaker that came out and said, okay, Fatah and Hamas needs to have discourse because of certain reasons, right? Which I will talk about later. So, firstly, we have to, from side government, we have to tell you this. On their side, that Fatah and Hamas needs to have discourse, needs to have reconciliation because they need to talk about. We have to say this: there's a much more dire need when it comes to talking about, when it comes to having a talk between Fatah and Israel, because there are more problems between Fatah and Israel. And secondly, because Fatah and Hamas wasn't fighting in the first place. Sure, they had problems, sure they had issues, but they weren't fighting in the first place, right? So moving on to their policy, right? Because they want to say reconciliation of Fatah and Hamas will make everything better. They live in a utopian world where once reconciliation happens, that suddenly everyone will suddenly recognize everyone else, right? Because suddenly Israel will suddenly recognize Hamas will suddenly recognize Israel, and everything will be fine and dandy. They never give us a logical link how that's going to happen. They never gave us a logical link how Hamas and Israel will suddenly become best friends, right? So in that logic, they came and said this: oh, Israel would definitely recognize Hamas because they wanted to end the war. So under this logic, if they wanted to end the war that bad, the war would have ended already because there was already time for you to recognize Hamas. There was already time for Israel and Hamas to have peace talks. The fact is this, right? Israel and Hamas refused to recognize each other because Hamas refused to allow Israel to be a state, and Israel refused to let Hamas to recognize Hamas because Hamas was an Islamic state. They refused to let them to be a state, right? So under this logic, they will never have recognition, and if they will never have recognition, all that discourse would never happen, right? So moving on to their second argument, right, where they say that Fatah and Hamas can have peace talk, can have discourse, and discourse will allow much more policies to happen, and this would cause Palestine to become a better place, right? Firstly, Fatah and Hamas, as my first speaker has already told you, Fatah and Hamas did come together because they wanted to be best buddies, and they wanted to solve their disagreements out, right? They came together because there was a power void, because they wanted to have much more power, because they felt that their power was decreasing, and then they wanted to retain their power, right? So even if they wanted to talk about this disagreement, we say this, that look, we already said that Hamas is a hardcore Islamic party, right? They don't want Israel to happen, but Fatah is much more willing to talk with Israel. So when you have both this ideology happen, both of them would clash with each other, and more an internal conflict will happen. When internal conflict happens, you cannot pass policies that will protect your country, that will protect Palestine, right? So when this happens, Israel can come in and clear out more people and cause more problems, and henceforth the government now has no power to stop them because they are busy fighting among themselves, right? Okay. Even if they say that, okay, no, this is going to happen, we say no. Status quo has already proved to you how it had not happened, because you already had this type of thing happening before. The Cairo Agreement, the Doha Agreement, the Mecca Agreement, all of them fell apart because there was internal conflict. All of them fell apart because Hamas and Fatah couldn't came to agreement the fact that how they wanted to govern their country. Before I move on, yes.
So Hamas does maybe have a hardcore ideology, but wouldn't through all this discourse make them change their ideologies to ensure that they have a more liberal stance?
If Hamas was so hardcore to the fact that they don't want to recognize Israel, what makes you think that they would want to listen to Fatah in the first place? Alright? So they have not made that logical link, and they are better to. Okay, moving on, right? Then they came out and said this. Okay, no, peace talks will happen because US and UN will come out and broker this thing. We already told you throughout our entire bench. is US and UN can only do so much, right? They can only come out and set up the tables. They can only come out to pull those two together. But if both of them are not willing, if both of them do not enter this agreement, no negotiation can happen at the end of the day. Especially, so they came and say, oh, negotiation doesn't happen in the first place, right? But we see this negotiation did happen. Israel was talking to Fatah about border control. They were talking about the fact that negotiation happened before was because Hamas was not in the picture. So when Hamas is in the picture, and the fact that Israel doesn't recognize Hamas, this will cause peace deals to stop, right? So this puts me nicely to all the benefit, to all the harms that my side has talked about when you have a reconciliation of Fatah and Hamas. We prove to you this. We prove to you firstly the fact that we cannot have peace talks at all, right? Because if peace talks were to have, if Hamas and Fatah were to be together, and Israel does talk to Israel, we prove to you that that doesn't happen at all because Israel doesn't recognize Hamas, right? Secondly, we prove to you how that even if US and UN already came, no negotiation can still happen. And thirdly, we told you how shaky the government is, and henceforth more harm will come to the Palestinians. But before I move on, yes, last one.
If you don't include Hamas in your negotiations, don't you think that would just make the Hamas more angry that you're not included and therefore to fight more
Hamas already been in been in the fight with Israel for a long time. So even if you said that, even if they were excluding them, they were already excluding them from their peace talks at the start of the agreement, right? So there is no extra harm that can come if you exclude Hamas, because Hamas was excluded from the get-go, right? So what have I told you? So moving on with the things that I've told you. We told you how this I'll move on to what they have said, right? What benefits that they came. They talked about discourse, right? They talked about how civilians are dying, and when ceasefire happens, peace talks can happen. I already proved to you how ceasefire cannot happen when Hamas and Fatah are reconciliating, because because Israel does not and do not want to recognize Hamas, right? And secondly, they say they obviously want to end the war. Secondly, they obviously want to end the war because they want peace, right? Yes, we agree that peace is important. Yes, we agree that peace is necessary. But this is not the way that you want to end. This is not the way for peace to happen between Israel and Palestine. The only way that Fatah and Hamas can reconcile, and the only way that Israel and Palestine can actually come to a negotiation is when Israel recognizes Hamas and Hamas recognizes Israel. Until they prove to us that logically, we have already taken this debate from the get-go. Thank you. Hello. Okay. It is extremely problematic when you have a government that somehow comes up here and concedes that these people are not fighting and not having a war, yet two speakers come up and tell you that they are and they are not. The idea that they're not being consistent with all three speakers is the idea that all their cases, is the idea that the whole case is harmful. Our stance from the beginning of this debate was simple, and we still stick to that. It's the idea that we want reconciliation, and we want a negotiation because we realize that it's possible and it's for the best interest of both sides. The idea that it is possible is the idea on how our case still stands, and our case is still fighting on how Fatah and Hamas can reconcile and can negotiate. Two issues for you here, right? First, let's look at whether or not a reconciliation of Fatah and Hamas is the best alternative, or secondly, which side has a higher chance of regulating a conflict as a whole. First issue, Let's go whether or not reconciliation is the best alternative for Fatah and Hamas. Two levels for you here. First level, we thought that yes because of three reasons. Firstly, reconciliation is the idea of obtaining truth and justice without harming your country as a whole and having peace within everything. Right? The harm and the problem within our policy is the idea that the people within this area have information within two parties won't come up and won't tell you not necessarily happening, won't give you any form of support, and won't help you solve conflict as a whole. That's the problem with the proposal that they never solve. Second reason, are there any alternatives that can actually replace reconciliation and according to the situation and how vulnerable the situation is, right? We thought that no. The idea that consecutively within all three speakers, the idea that they told you, oh, there's so much harm and there's mutual, there's massing, there's murders, is the idea that we need truth and reconciliation, and it's the idea that we cannot step in a harmful way. We need to take the best possible alternative and prove to these two sides and how there's a possible way on how you can reconcile. But it's something I'll prove to you in my second issue as well. Third reason, even if they say reconciliation cannot happen, the harms is mutually exclusive within their proposal. When the idea that they provide you all singular harms within a proposal cannot prove it, but even if they provide it, they never provide you an alternative on how they were going to solve it. That's the harm within their policy. Second level, singular harms within under their policy also. Right? Two levels. First, the harm that the current negotiation is happening within Hamas and Fatah is the idea that you harm the negotiation and you harm the idea of them negotiating its current status quo. The harm that you do that is your idea that you cut off all binds that they necessarily have. You cut off all possible peace negotiations that have ever existed between these two people. But secondly, when you don't represent Hamas, then that's when they will further radicalize their stance, and that's when the idea of you harming a lot of people and not harming the idea of them actually having reconciliation is a harm they propose within your proposal. But before I move on, any of your eyes? No.
Ma'am, reconciliation can happen, but you cannot assure to us if Israel will recognize that it's reconciliation.
Look, in status quo right now, reconciliation is already happening, meaning that there's a possible and there's a very high chance that these people are already negotiating and already formed their own government within status quo. The harms that they have to prove to us and how this reconciliation will cause more harms than benefits, something that they never prove. Conclusion, my first issue is that reconciliation is the best alternative within status quo, especially in such a vulnerable situation. Second issue, let's get which side has a higher chance of regulating the conflict within society. Three levels for you today. First level, look, of course the idea of the war being between Palestine and Israel is exactly what we're talking about status quo today. That's not the debate, but that's something I need to clarify so they all understand. But the idea that they cannot be represented, the idea that Israel and Palestine, the idea of how Palestine cannot be represented in a community is something that's extremely harmful when the government is already fractionalized something that's extremely harmful. But how do we also negotiate when we don't have a sovereign body that represents all interests of the Palestine, something they never took down either on that as well. But negotiating within the Hamas and Gaza and within the Hamas and the Fatah has also mean by prosecuting before we actually can negotiate in the first place. The idea of a negotiation is actually possible, but when you step back, you tell them that no negotiation can happen, that's when the future harms can still arise, that's when you have the idea of progression that ever existed between Fatah and Hamas. Second level, let's look at the biggest argumentation within today's period, consecutively between all three speakers, but never being proved. On the idea on how Hamas and Fatah can never negotiate and someone can never ever reconcile, therefore we should just give up and back off. Look, three responses, right? Firstly, no, the idea of reconciliation is extremely possible, something that came up consecutively between all three speakers. But when we say so, we know that Fatah and Hamas are already no longer fighting because they've already reconciled and already formed their own government within status quo right now. Right? The idea of them forming their own government already proves the reconciliation and negotiations is possible. Therefore, the idea of them progressing and the idea of the conflict ending is the idea of what we fight for in today's debate, and it's something that's like our opposition will always fight for. But even if you believe so, the idea of wanting to reconcile is the idea that you agree with us that we need to regulate it to the fullest extent. The harms that you bring up on today's debate is something that's extremely harmful and something that needs to be regulated. But the idea that you bring up all the harms that you cannot prove an alternative can never prove that you can never have any harms existing with our reconciliation. But even if you tell us there are harms that exist to the fullest extent, we know that there's a legitimate trade-off that exists, meaning that sure, harms may exist, but the benefit that exists when we actually resolve the conflict is something that we have to fight for. But before I move on, sure.
The problem is why Hamas and Fatah wants a reconciliation, because Hamas is losing power on Gaza Strip and Fatah is losing power on West Bank, and not because they want peace talks. End of story.
Look, How many times have I told you in today's debate that they have already formed the government within status quo? The idea of Fatah and Hamas actually working together is actually happening within status quo. Can your side please understand that? But also, even if you still believe that's not possible, the idea of reconciliation is still a method that we should use. Why do we say so? Reconciliation is the method where you don't harm more parties, but instead you want to solve the conflict before it arises too much. You don't want to harm both parties, but instead you want to solve the conflict because you realize to an extent that even if you want to harm both parties, that will never resolve the conflict. That's something that we have to consider. Third level, let's look at the harms within the policy today's debate, right? Then firstly, they harm the future negotiations will ever exist between Fatah and Hamas. Secondly, the idea of them finding an alternative in solving all the harms during status quo can never exist. But thirdly, even if they believe that reconciliation can never happen, they never prove them the alternative. Fourthly, the harms that exist within their proposal is the idea that they believe that reconciliation can never happen, but the idea of reconciliation that exists within society, exists within the status quo, exists within now, is the idea of Fatah and Hamas are resolving their conflicts and are coming on a mutual agreement on how to solve the idea. Conclusion, my second issue is that side opposition has a higher chance of regulating the conflict within the status quo. Members of the floor, the idea of acting and the idea of making and taking affirmative actions to ensure that you don't harm both parties, but instead you have a mutual agreement between both parties where you actually negotiate, where you actually have the idea of you wanting to agree on a particular issue. When you agree on something, that's when you can resolve the conflict. We're not telling you that we are definitely going to resolve the conflict, but the higher chance and mutual benefit that exists in our proposal exists to the fullest extent.
This has been a really messy debate. Why? Because all their arguments were tangible on the idea that Israel does not recognize Hamas. We told you no. Why? Because this reconciliation already existed. This thing which you're debating about already existed, and their burden to prove to you today is why the reconciliation doesn't work. None of the arguments fly. Because everything, when they talk about peace borders or when they talk about an unstable government, doesn't really apply to whatever they're talking about, because this reconciliation already exists and because Fatah recognizes Hamas. But even if, let's say, they don't recognize Hamas, we already told you that through MIDP speech, like other organizations, like through the PLO, where there's a combination of the Fatah and Hamas, already recognizes each other. And that's what we prove. But now, let's look at the reasons why we take today's debate. Number one, who ends the conflict faster? Number two, the individual's ability to opt out, something my deputy mentioned and never engaged on. And three, let's talk a bit about their harms and how we engage. But first, who ends the conflict faster? Because we told you that under their side, if you do exclude Hamas from all the other peace talks which I'm talking about, this is what's going to happen is that Hamas is going to get even more mad, and people supporting Hamas are going to get even more mad. So when this happens, there's going to be a social backlash, and there's going to be even more conflict and more people fighting each other because Hamas who really wants to be heard doesn't get to be heard. We think that doesn't happen. On the outside. Why? Because discourse happens. When two sides sit down, when Hamas and Fatah sit down and actually talk and express their feelings about what's happening and their dispositions and what they want and their interests, this is when constructive discourse and positive discourse happens. Because when two people come together with open minds, something also they can engage on, they can make better arguments and better solve the problem better and easier and find a solution easier and more effectively when two people aren't pointing guns at their heads. So also, my deputy also talked about how you can at the table when these people like Hamas, when they characterize it, and how people have this hardcore ideology. And my deputy already told you that when you're at the table, you can in a sense, remove that hardcore ideology or mitigate and lessen the hardcore ideology. Because when you're putting in that information and when you're talking about each other's open minds, that's when people can actually say, hey, maybe what I've been doing and my ideology has actually been wrong. This can only be achieved through discourse, through the reconciliation which we fight for. But on the second idea, on why we take this debate, because look, my deputy came out with this really good argument on the ability to opt out. When you're born into the demographic, when you're born into the ideology, and you really want to get out of it, but there's no way to get out of it because you'll be disenfranchised or you'll be antagonized by these people or by the supporters. So when this happens, now on the outside, when reconciliation actually exists, you can opt out of it. This legitimizes your ability to opt out without any hate, because these two people, when Hamas and Fatah are actually having their discourse and having reconciliation, people actually think that, hey, okay, your opting out was because of rational reasons. But on the third reason, let's look at their arguments, and I think this is the most major argument which came out from them, which is the generation of an unstable government. We already told you that this unstable government already, all governments start off unstable. All new governments are unstable. But when this happens, this is a platform and a stepping stone to create a stable government in the future, where both parties, through all this discourse, which we've been fighting for, can come to an agreement and then become stable. This is what we think, this is what we believe will happen on the outside when the reconciliation actually exists. The burdens they have to prove to us, they are the harms. Everything, all the harms they came up was tangible on the idea that reconciliation didn't exist yet. We take this debate easily. Thank you.
I thank the last speaker and present the last speech of the Novice panel. May call upon the government secretary.
Side opposition's government's placing in this debate must have been so bad that their wit tried to even come out and throw a statement saying that we contradicted ourselves. But is it a contradiction? She told us that some of us say there was war between Fatah and Hamas, and some say we didn't. But it's clear, as you can see, all three of us told you that Fatah and Hamas never had a war. All that was happening is that they had ideological differences. There is a very big difference. But to see this whole debate in a clearer picture, we must understand what exactly is the situation in there. Look, before this, Fatah was negotiating with Israel. Why? So that they could stop the land clearances, stop the displacement of its people, and settle the Jerusalem dispute. At the same time, Hamas itself refused to negotiate with Israel, and Israel in turn refused to negotiate with Hamas because both sides didn't recognize each other and both sides were fine with each other, not negotiating with each other. So what happened then? When they both, Hamas and Fatah, reconciled, formed a coalition government. Israel already put up a big statement, a clear statement that it would never ever hold talks with a coalition government as long as Hamas was in that coalition government. What happens that it proves all that these negotiations between Israel and the coalition government of Palestine can never happen. That means the harms that we told you, the Jerusalem dispute, the clearing of land, and also shaking ground, and also how the displacement of Palestinian people will continue, still exist. Because all they told us was come up with this strange idea. When Fatah and Hamas reconcile, Israel and Palestine automatically reconcile. That's what they try to say. But the fact is, they don't even want to recognize each other. How do they reconcile? As we told you already, look, there were previous deals to have this reconciliation between Fatah and Hamas and form a coalition government. Deals in Cairo, Doha, Mecca, and Sana'a. They agreed to form a coalition government. What happened? They fell out. The deals immediately fell out. Why? Because of their ideological differences. Because they did not want to put down their ideologies. This is the same issue here. Because we told you the only reason why they had this recent deal is because they wanted to consolidate their power in both sides of where they actually rule. This means they still don't want to settle their ideological difference. But what was this debate about? It was whether the reconciliation between Fatah and Hamas was more harmful or beneficial. What were the harms that we told you? We told you how negotiations cannot happen, and when the negotiation between Israel and Fatah cannot happen, there will be continuous land clearing by Israel, the displacement of Palestinian people, Israel trying to take over the whole of Jerusalem, and eventually also there will be a shaky government because of them being unable to settle their ideological differences, resulting in Israel taking their chance to take that chance and clear more land because the government now cannot settle its ideological differences and never be able to produce a policy to protect its people. What were the benefits that they tried to bring? They said the benefit was Fatah and Hamas can have discourse. They can put down their ideological differences and reconcile. That's all they talked about. And what was their harm if they don't reconcile? That Hamas will feel bad, will feel annoyed if Israel and Fatah, only these two negotiate. But look, there is negotiations between Israel and Fatah happened a long time ago without Hamas. And Hamas was fine with it because they never ever wanted to even be part of the negotiation in the first place. So how would they be mad? But look, even if the harms and benefits that they try to bring about were true, we tell you that the harms of people, the Palestinian people being displaced, the harms of the Jerusalem dispute, far outweighs that small benefit and that small harm that they tried to bring in this debate. For all these reasons, the reconciliation between Fatah and Hamas is more regrettable.